Theo drifted along the currents of the wind with Cass tied to the front of him. She would move and moan, but she never woke up. Perhaps that was a good thing. He didn't want to be the one to tell her the Daedalus had burned, and that they were all alone, drifting along the western mountain range, with nothing but Theo's memories of the puzzle box and the papers he had found. The price for that knowledge seemed too high. They had been gliding for hours when the sun began to set, spreading rays of orange and yellow across the mist below. How much farther to duskward? Every time the glider started to dip, he'd been fortunate to find an updraft, but he couldn't glide forever. He was cold, and his extremities were growing numb with chill, not to mention he hadn't eaten or drunk anything since yesterday. Adrenaline alone kept him going. He glanced to his left. Should he try and land on the ragged mountains nearby and stay for the night? He squinted in the dying light. No, the cliffs were too steep, and one false landing would kill them, if he could even find a place to land. The western mountains were barren of humanity for a good reason. There was nowhere to live, and in his case, nowhere to land. His only choice was to keep on gliding until they reached duskward or the glider finally gave out. Exhaustion crept across his body as his fingers stayed taut around the guiding poles. Every minute felt like an hour. His back hurt, his head hurt, everything hurt. He forced his mind to focus elsewhere. What were his sister Adora and Aunt Maud up to right now? He'd told them he'd be away for a while on business. Was his sister attending parties or spending her time with her charity work? Was Aunt Maud still grieving over grandfather's death? What about the Daedalus? The crew had to have escaped. Surely an airship like that had a plan of action in the event of a fire, right? But then, where had they gone? One of Cass's curls drifted up and tickled the bottom edge of his cheek. What was he going to do with her? He'd lost the vial of blood that held the immunity to the mist, but the woman tied to him carried that immunity inside of her. She could quite possibly be the salvation for humanity. And the test subject for the House of Lords. No. That was the one thing he wouldn't let happen. He didn't trust them. The sun sank below the horizon as stars appeared across the darkening sky. The natural beauty could not stop the sinking feeling in his chest. He dropped his head and closed his eyes. The heaviness expanded until it was hard to breathe. Was this it, then? Would he and Cass slowly coast back into the mist, never to be heard from again? Please, Aleros, don't let it end this way. Don't. He thought of the House of Lords and Loron and all that had transpired so far. Don't let them win. Help me make it to duskward. Theo let go of one of the guiding poles and brought his hand around and touched Cass's forehead. A burning fever encompassed her body, whether brought on by her exposure to the spores or something else. His thoughts drifted over the last month and a half he'd spent with her. He still didn't know her background, not fully, but what he did know was she was smart, curious, and a fighter. She'd lived on the streets of Bellhold for years, became a diver, and now even the spores from the plague wars couldn't take her out. He longed to know her more, to introduce her to Adora. He had a feeling his sister would love this spunky young woman. He wanted to show her the lab below the manse and the Winchester library. He could almost envision her green eyes brighten with curiosity in the flood of questions.